Hi, everyone. This is Nancy with ROHTV at Relationships of the Heart. Today, we're going to be talking about something that sounds really simple, but for many of us, it is difficult. It's called working, waiting, and adult peer pressure. Currently, I'm not quite sure the working is that difficult. Right? For some, yes, but in a general sense, working for many of us is changed. It looks different. Some are not at their everyday jobs right now. Other people are, but the landscape of the working world has changed. But that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today. Or how about the waiting? Okay, working and waiting. We may be going to our jobs during the day, or we're now working remotely, or the job isn't there right now, or maybe we lost our job, or we're trying to find another job. Maybe we've had to adjust at our workplace, whether we are on site or remotely. Maybe we were in the middle of working on some project or expanding, and now we're still working towards the expansion, but our steps aren't moving as fast. Our plan isn't moving as fast as it was. All of a sudden, we had to put the brakes on, or maybe it wasn't all of a sudden, but as this virus issue progressed, we knew that, okay, right now we need to set this off to the side and work on this. But then, in the middle of all of this decision making, in the middle of all of this learning how to carry out our everyday lives, for some of us, it's more difficult because maybe our entire household or life, everyday life, even from the area of relaxing to working, that the wait is difficult for us. But then now let's throw in this word, adult peer pressure. There was a time that I did a series, I'm not sure where it is out there online right now, but I talked about adult peer pressure. And to many people, as I use this word in different places, I was just throwing it out here and there. And it is what I find interesting that there's kind of different levels of adult peer pressure. There's the level of the bully, right? That's that bully that comes in with their words, and you are going to agree with them. And if you do not agree with them, then they are simply going to make your life miserable. This can take place in the workplace, whether you are working remotely or on site, whether you own the business or you're an employee, or in your home or in your family, within your friends. Now, today we also deal with the online world with social media, and many people who have not been online as much as they are now are finding it's not easy. Some are just loving it, but others are distracted by it. But then in comes that adult peer pressure. You know, that person that says, "Oh, it's not hard for me. It's no big deal." And then they proceed to tell you what you're doing wrong and criticizing how you're doing it. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times that we need to allow people into our lives in the workplace, whether we are the owner or we are the employee. This could be even in our churches, in our groups, online, offline, that it's good to have discussions with other people. But then again, today, that's why we're talking about that adult peer pressure. And this is my question for you. This is for the people who may be pressuring others around them as an adult. We're not talking about children here. We're not even talking about what religion you are. But you are that person that really applies adult peer pressure to other people. It's not even the same as manipulation. But maybe you've lived this way so long that you don't realize that you pressure other people, that you don't realize there is a valid opinion that someone else may have. This is a word I'd like us to look at today. And after you listen to me, kind of ponder that a little bit and see which side are you on, or maybe you're on both. Maybe you aren't that person that pressures other people. Here's a timely example for us today. I know you're thinking, I don't want to hear this word again. If I have to hear it one more time, I'm going to shut you off. Well, if you want to, go ahead. Feel free to do that. But really, I'd like you to listen to me, because when we use illustrations, it's good to use them that apply to today. So we're dealing with this virus, right? And there's a difference of opinion. Start with the news, right? The media. In the media right now, it'll only take me 10 minutes, and I could probably write you, if I could type that fast, like many, many pages really quick, just by grabbing this news feed over here and this one over here, and we're talking the major ones, and then I can move on to online magazines, and I can pull this one here and this one here, and read, not looking for like essay type writing, but what is supposed to be reported as the facts. And it's all different. It's all different. But it's interesting that we can listen to one area of the news, and whether it's true or not, they're just reporting it. They're not even trying to pressure you to agree with them. But then we may listen to someone else and they're pushing. And as they're reporting, or maybe the reporter is interviewing someone and it's the interviewer, they are really pressuring people. Remember, again, we're talking about adult peer pressure here. We're not talking about children. But let me throw this in. When we look at our children today, and through the last few years, there's been a lot in the news, and that they're working with and trying to get better at it with children and bullying, because children are bullying other children, and that it's gotten worse in our schools. But did you ever stop to think and ask yourself, number one, why, but where are they learning this from? The question is, are they learning from the adults around them to bully from being around adult peer pressure? Of course, they may not have those names, the titles to use, but many times we learn by what we're around. Like when I'm learning online, it's very interesting, the different classes that I've taken online, that there are people, adults, who are very, very high pressure. And it may not even be about they're trying to sell us something, but they just keep pressuring, and they will say to me and others, if you don't do it this way, it's not going to work. That's why you're having problems. Just like the news, then I may listen to someone else in the area of teaching, and it's the complete opposite, and they are telling me and really putting the pressure on. Now, I threw the word peer pressure in here, right? That's those people that are, we used to call it close to us. We can also describe it as maybe it's someone in our age group. Like we have teenage peer pressure, but we can also have religious peer pressure. Once again, I want you to just kind of throw this word around and ask yourself, am I someone that applies adult peer pressure to others and I don't realize it, or I realize it, but I'm going to keep doing it because this is what's working for me. But you know what's really hard about this? Whether it's business or church or family, mainly you're duplicating yourself by what other people see. Some people will just go against it and they're like, I'm not going to be like that person. But others, without realizing it, will begin to pick that up. And pretty soon you can have this peer pressure mentality, which moves into conformity. And when we move into conformity, we risk, especially in our churches, we risk turning into people-pleasing people. Have you ever thought of that? Part of what peer pressure is, as you bring other people in, and I have experienced it in different areas of my life, not so much in my life of work, but within the church and within ministry. Not in areas where I lead a Relationship of the Heart conference, whether it's in the USA or outside of the USA, but it usually happens within groups of people that I'm around. For instance, we'll use the woman issue. My intention was not to talk about this today, but I think it will fit very well. There was a time when I was attending a university and I was not a young adult, so we're not talking about young adult peer pressure here. I was like almost 40. But there was just a few people within this university that didn't like the idea that as a woman I was in a specific program for ministry. And so they didn't just go about their way and do their work, but no, some would send someone to me to pressure me to step out of this school. Now, I need to make sure I say this because I know some people that may be listening to me, they know me and they know what school I attended, and that's not very hard to find. But what I'm sharing right now has nothing to do with any professors or staff of the university. This deals with other students. So, one instance, and this happened more than once, but I'll just talk about one. One was someone sending someone else to sit down and talk to me and let me know I should not be in this program that I was in because women should not be in this program. God has ordained only men to serve in this way. And I sat there and I listened, and I'll tell you why I listened, because I was writing a paper. And I thought, Lord, you always give me real time experiences. Now, really, my feelings, I wanted to like get out of this conversation, and there were some things that were said, I won't go into all of it, but there were some things that were said that were really cruel, and it came down to this. It's like, well, if you won't do this and you won't change your mind, then I can no longer be your friend. And guess what? The person was no longer my friend. That is heavy adult religious peer pressure. I'm in school. I'm not serving in church at that time. I'm not leading Relationships of the Heart. I'm not leading conferences for men and women together. But every now and then, it was this peer pressure. So it was kind of like this small group of people. That's how peer pressure works. They pick up someone else that they may agree with exactly what they're saying, but they also will pick up people that they have pressured with that peer pressure, and pretty soon you have this group that's morphed together. So today, with this virus, we have so much polarization in the area of whether it is politics, whether it is in our churches, whether it is in groups, whether it's on the left or whether it is on the right. People are pressuring one another. And right now, especially in the United States, where states and cities are beginning to open back up, now the disagreements arise. And sometimes it's violence because we're talking adults against other adults. And you know what? I'm going after you, whether it's verbally, it's publicly, or it's physically in your face, one to one. I'm going to pressure you because it's not said this way, but the goal is I'm going after you until you agree with what I agree and how I believe and how I think. And when we are looking at this virus situation and the polarization, this is why I'm asking you to look at your own life and make sure, even in your conversations, that you are not being an adult bully, that you are not putting on pressure in the way that it sounds like this. Very simple example. Well, so and so agrees with me, and that person agrees with me, and your friend over here agrees with me. Or we're a group of pastors. Well, that pastor agrees with me, and that pastor agrees with me. That one, guess you're on the outside. Without telling us we're on the outside, we're pushed out. So, simple example, the one people are tired of hearing about, but a simple example is a mask. To wear one or don't wear one. The mature way to do this is step back for yourself, for your family, for your situation, for your business, for your city, because it depends on where you live, and decide what should we be doing in our family. Like I heard something the other day that I was listening to. It was just one example of there's even arguments going on in families because one say yes and others say no. But then let's move that back to peer pressure because that's just all in out argument. But here today we're talking about pressuring other people, like not leaving them alone, going after them. That's what happens in high school, right? If the kids all of a sudden come along and there's just two or three that decide to pick on this one kid, what happens? The herd mentality. It kind of starts spreading, whether it's a large school or a small school, and it just goes on that this could be a girl or a boy, and they haven't did anything, just being who they are. But then also mix in this peer pressure deals with to conform. To conform. Now, back to the masks as example. This is where I'm at with this because people do ask me, Nancy, where are you at with this? Well, number one, my office is at home. So there's not much change there. And I was in a season of not traveling right now. So I didn't have to back a lot up. But let's fast forward to right now. This is my decision. When I go for a walk, I'm by myself. I I have a mask. I even have a mask. It's around my neck. and I don't wear it, but I have it. If there is a store that I want to go into and their policy is you must wear a mask to enter, then I'm going to wear my mask. But no one has done this, but I'm just going to use this as an example. Don't come after me if you believe I should be keeping my mask on as soon as I walk out the door. And I keep it on until I get back home. Don't come after me if I'm going to the store 4 blocks from here and this store allows me to walk in with a mask. But now let's turn the tables. It's not up to me to pressure other people to do and carry out my safety the way I'm doing it. To pressure those people around me until they conform to my thinking. Now, am I going to try and be the safest I can if I know someone is very high risk? Of course I am. Do I wash my hands a lot? Yes, I do. And I have a great big bottle of lotion sitting on my desk for my hands. But this is a word I'd like us to think about right now in the middle of this. It's not a word that I'm hearing. We don't hear the word adult peer pressure. I don't even know if I heard it somewhere long ago or I just wrote it down when I was thinking about something. I think it rose out of when I was thinking about children. And the bullying and the peer pressure. You know, I recall this, and this is damage. This is really damage. And this is more on the bullying side. But this was as someone that was in high school. It wasn't in my class. This was just a story from someone that there was a young man that was in high school, and this young man was not fat. He wasn't so skinny, unhealthy, but the young man was the correct weight for his age. He wasn't overweight. But a couple kids went after him and started calling him names about, being really, really big and really, really fat. And the kid wasn't fat. But guess what? Peer pressure. Pretty soon, other people were saying the same thing. When I say people, other students. And what happened to this young man? We think of as just young girls. What happened to this young man? He began to think that he was fat. And so he would stop eating. But this is what peer pressure does. That's a bullying. But this is what even adult peer pressure does. If it goes far enough, we're damaging people. And what happens, no matter which side we're on, even on this virus issue, one side or the other, if someone is really pressured, pretty soon they're going to start thinking, gosh, maybe they're right. Or maybe there is something wrong with me. Not that we don't make mistakes. Keep this in context with what I'm talking about today, what we're focusing about. So today, as we talk about working, waiting, and adult peer pressure, a few months ago, these words really wouldn't come together. We wouldn't even think of them together. We go to work, it's not about waiting. We may be waiting to find a job, but we're still moving forward at a pretty fast pace. It's something they teach in the online world is don't wait, you got to do it now. But now in many areas of our life, we're waiting, but we also are working at the same time. And there may be adults around us that are really pressuring us. If you are someone that is being pressured right now by those around you, maybe it has nothing to do with the virus, maybe it's in some other area. I encourage you to make the right decision. I don't know what that is for you, but these words keep coming to my mind. Don't cave in, don't buckle, because your opinion and how you are looking at situations is just as valuable. I have been around through the years, off and on, adult men and women that they may have physical handicaps, they may have mental handicaps, they may have some type of disease, but there's something God always reminds me. Each one of the types of people that I just named, number one, God created all of us. Number two, none of us are any better than anyone struggling with whatever that looks like for them. So sometime there may be, here's adult peer pressure, others around someone calling them all kinds of names because they are unable to do something, but they're incapable of doing it. Maybe it's a physical limitation, maybe it's something with their mind. We could take a whole uh, 10, 15, 20 minutes and make a list here of the differences. But it's what I have learned. And I pray and I hope, even as I'm sharing this, that I don't become a person that applies adult peer pressure to others, especially in this season. It's almost like a church may bring in some program, right? And they decide, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they decided the whole church is going to go through this. But everyone has different schedules, and for some reason, this person over here is unable to do this, but this group is here, and this group starts feeling better than this group that don't have time to do this, or for whatever their reasoning, and they rise up, and it begins to permeate the entire church, because now you have two different groups. Well, we're going through this and you're not. And you start seeing a division, and it's what usually happens when you have the group that says, well, we're going through this and you must not be as spiritual as we are because you're not spending the time in this. The person that's being pressured, some will come on over to your side, but others, they will leave. They will leave. So our words for today are working, waiting, and adult peer pressure. And my challenge to you is to look at both sides of this adult peer pressure and see if you are the person that's pushing people to conform to your opinion and be part of your group that you don't even realize you're forming, or if you are that person that's really struggling to conform to the adult peer pressure that's being placed on you. We how to handle it. So if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can email me at nancy@relationshipswithnancy.com. We also have a newsletter that I send out. It's called the E-Community, and that keeps you in the loop of wherever I'm going to be. If you're listening to me here where I'm live now, or you're listening to this as a replay, play somewhere else out there on the internet, you can always get in touch with me and request to be part of the e-community, or maybe you're listening to this somewhere and within the description or off to the side there's a button you can press to join our e-community. I would love to have you join me right now. There's not too much that I'm sending out right now, but when I do, it's usually about the main topics that we're going to be talking about. For instance, I have one group that I recently, it was probably a couple weeks ago, finished up a 4-part series on caring for our heart in a chaotic world. And we were looking at how do we care for our heart today with what's going on today. So if you sign up for the e-community, is what happens. You don't have to look through feeds anywhere or here or there. You'll just automatically receive the email, and usually I try and go at the 4 videos as an example that I just kept sending out an email letting you know when it was ready, because I know many of us are living in a busy world right now, whether it's in home or remote or work, or maybe we're working at projects at home and we're knowing, uh-oh, it's coming up soon that I need to get back to work, and we're trying to hurry up and get everything done. I encourage you to become part of ROH TV and Relationships of the Heart, our learning communities. But the best place to begin is to join our e-community. So once again, you can email me at nancy@relationshipswithnancy.com, or if you're listening to this somewhere where there's a form or a button to press, fill it out there and I'll be sure to place you within our community.